Hi guys, Olive here today with a very special video. We have a new family member, and I thought I would introduce you to her. This is a new one for me because the last time we adopted a cat, I didn't have a BookTube channel yet. We adopted our other cat, Thea, back in 2014, and she's just been with us ever since. But for a little while, this one has been living with us. This is Tanqueray, like the gin. She doesn't like all the lights in here, nor does she really like being held. But I wanted you to see her. She is a calico tabby. The rescue said she's about 1.5 years old, and she came to us first as a foster, didn't you? She's just going to be hanging out here since she's not a big fan of the whole lighting situation in here. But she was captured off the street. She was a stray cat. And the rescue said that they thought she was feral at first because she did not have a good reaction to being trapped. But basically, as soon as she got into a room with people, she's just been a delight ever since. Like, everybody notices how friendly and loving she is. She can't get enough attention. She's just a joy to be around. She was a foster cat at first. When we were in Las Vegas, I saw an Instagram post by a rescue called Rescue and Relax. They're located here in Pittsburgh. They made a call for foster homes because at the time, and I'm pretty sure still now, they're just overrun with the number of cats that they're taking in. So they were looking for people to take in some of these cats. And I'm not big on making impulsive decisions. I tend to think everything through, like, for a long time. But there was just something about that post. I knew I needed to do it. So I cleared it with my husband, and while we were still in Las Vegas, I filled out the application. When we got home from Las Vegas, they did approve our application. They cleared us. And that same week, I brought home Tanqueray. She had just been fixed, so I had to keep an eye on her incision. But only a couple of days after we got her, she got extremely sick. We found out later that she picked up some sort of a respiratory infection from the clinic where she had been spayed. And I know this because a lot of their other cats who were altered there as well got the exact same illness. They had the exact same sounding cough. But at the time, we didn't know what was going on. So I had to give her several different antibiotics. And then once that finally cleared up, and she was really sick, like I was concerned at one point that she was not going to make it. She did, obviously. But then after that, after she got off of all those antibiotics, she developed a secondary infection. She got a case of pink eye, so I was having to put goop in her eye. She just went through it for her first week or two here. But between administering all of those antibiotics, literally shoving goop into her infected eye, giving her a bath because she had never been bathed before. She was absolutely filthy from being on the streets. And then clipping her nails because she needed to have them clipped. She allowed me to do all of that without any hissing, biting, scratching. Like, she wasn't thrilled that any of it was happening, but she just let me do it. And then as I was caring for her, we just really bonded. I just really, really grew attached to her. And there came a point pretty early on that my husband and we just knew we couldn't send her back. So we are foster fails, and we are not sorry about it. She is essentially a dream cat. Like, she's brought so much happiness to our household. She's been such a blessing. I honestly feel like the universe knew that I wanted a dog, but that I couldn't get a dog because Thea is terrified of dogs. She would not be able to tolerate a dog. So instead, the universe sent me a cat that behaves like a puppy. She really does. She's playful. She's silly. She follows me around everywhere. She chirps at me. She likes to snuggle with me. She's just the best. It's really hard to believe that not all that long ago she was a street cat because she's learning very quickly how to be a house cat. She's doing a fantastic job. She's very easy to train. They say you can't train cats, which is true of my other cat, but it's not true of this one. We have to just show her the right way to do things, and it only takes her once or twice to pick it up. So she still has a moment here or there, and we have to encourage her to do the things that we want her to do. But she is very receptive, and she's very eager to please. Again, she's kind of like a puppy. Hi, honey. She's just circling my legs, meowing. At first, I thought we would change her name. She got the name Tanqueray because this rescue, like a lot of rescues do, they name all the cats they get from a specific area or a specific home. They give them all themed names so they can keep the cats straight. They can remember that all of these cats came from the same location. So all the cats they captured in the location where they got Tanqueray were named after alcohols. So I think there was one named Whiskey, Cider, Drambuie, Frangelica, things like that. And she got the name Tanqueray. And when we first got her, I'm like, that's a lot of name for a little cat. But as she's been here with us, it's really grown on me. Any other name that I could think of, and I've had other names that I've thought of over the years that I might potentially name a new cat, none of them seem to fit her better than Tanqueray. So we're keeping it. It matches our other cat's name. Her name is Theodora. We call her Thea, so we have the two T's. And we've just been calling her Tank, T-A-N-Q, and I think it fits her. But in this video, I didn't just want to introduce you to our new baby. I'm very excited to talk about her and gush about her. But this is a book channel, and so to celebrate her arrival, to celebrate her joining the family, I read 2 books. Because of course I did, so I thought I would tell you about those. Since our new cat's name is Tanqueray, I picked up a book called Tanqueray by Stephanie Johnson and Brandon Stanton. This is an extended version of a story that first appeared on the blog Humans of New York, which is a site that celebrates people living in New York City. It tells their stories, and Brandon Stanton takes their photos to accompany those stories. Back in the 1970s, Stephanie Johnson was a very successful burlesque dancer in New York City, and she performed under the name Tanqueray. She's now an older woman, and she just so happened to bump into Brandon Stanton, who runs Humans of New York. She ran into him on the streets of New York. They started talking, and she started telling him some of her wild stories. She had some doozies to tell. And when Brandon Stanton began sharing them on Humans of New York, people could not get enough of her stories. She was so popular that she was offered a book deal in which she can talk about her life and give all the stories she wants to. And she definitely took advantage of that opportunity in this book. She has so much to say. She's met so many people over the course of her life. Interesting people and also seedy people in her line of work. She really was an it girl in these clubs for this period of time. And it's all the more impressive when you read about where she came from. She really did come from nothing. She had to build herself into this it girl, and it was all the harder because she was Black. There's a lot of loneliness in here, a lot of hardship. Stephanie is just so honest about her experiences, and I really admired her candor. She does keep some things to herself, but she tells us way more than she needed to. And it was just such a treat, not only hearing her story, but as you do so, you're really transported back to the New York City of this era, because you're hearing her stories, but also they strategically place images of New York City at that time throughout this book, so you really feel like you're there. There are also scattered illustrations in this book. Like, it's just really well done. As I was reading this, I had a thought that I remember having when I was reading The Trauma Cleaner by Sarah Krasnostein. And I talked about this exact thing in the wrap-up video in which I talked about The Trauma Cleaner. But how many people's stories, how many people's memoirs are we missing out on because they don't consider themselves writers? They would never think of writing a memoir. I am so happy that Brandon Stanton ran into Stephanie on the street and then he used his platform to champion her. I know this book and getting her story out there has done her a lot of good, even if just financially. A lot of people loved her enough to chip in and help with her medical expenses. She had a lot of medical expenses, and I know those have been able to be covered because people donated and because of the sales of this book. So this was just such a rewarding experience to read. I read it because of the title, but I'm really glad I found my way to this book. And maybe I can fib now a little bit and just claim that our cat is named after her. But the other book I read to celebrate our new cat's arrival, kind of like Tanqueray, found me at exactly the right time. Not too long ago, a publicist from Dutton reached out to me and asked me if I would like a copy of The Hidden Language of Cats, How They Have Us at Meow by Sarah Brown. And I remember thinking, well, isn't this just perfect timing because we just got a new cat? So I said yes, and then tacked it on to my nonfiction November reading. The author of this book earned a PhD studying cats. So this is a very research-backed book, and it wonders, how did our domestic house cats evolve from these solitary wildcats into creatures that live in our homes and communicate with not only us, but each other. Communication really is the focus of this book. We do get a brief overview of how those wild cats likely evolved into our house cats, but mainly the focus of this book is on how cats communicate. Things like their vocalizations, but then also their ear and tail movements, their eye contact, physical touch, and so on and so forth. We hear about what cats are likely trying to say with those things, like what those things likely mean when cats do them, but also where those things came from, like evolutionarily speaking. And it's not just conjecture. As I said, this author has her PhD. She's not scared of a little research, and there is a ton of research to back up all of this information she's talking about. She cites a number of sources, different people's, but then her own, because she studied 2 different feral cat colonies, so she talks about her own observations. She also gives us anecdotes from her own life, because she also owns cats, so she talks a lot about her own cats. You're going to need to like to read findings of studies in order to enjoy this, but I don't mean that to scare you off, because it is far from dry. Everything is presented in a really fascinating way. The writing is solid. It also is extremely fast-paced. All of this was really interesting, but I think the parts that interested me the most were when she was talking about cat personalities toward the back of the book. She was talking about cat personalities and also human personalities. She talked about how women tend to click with cats a little bit more than men. And she also talked about what kind of human personalities tend to bond with cats the most. At a different point, though, when she was still talking about cat personalities, she said something that I've never heard before. She said that calicos and tortoiseshells have reputations for being unfriendly. I've never heard that ever in my life. I've heard both of them be called divas. Tortoiseshells more so, and having a tortoiseshell myself, our other cat Thea is a tortoiseshell. I can confirm that that's true. She is definitely a diva. But now I have a calico and a tortoiseshell, and I can tell you they are 2 of the sweetest, friendliest cats I have ever met in my life. They follow me around constantly. Like, one of them is with me nearly at all times when I'm in this house. If you have a cat, if you spend a lot of time with cats, if you've spent any amount of time researching cats online to learn about their body language, then a lot of this isn't going to necessarily be new to you, but it will deepen your knowledge, that existing knowledge that you may have about cats, and it's going to give you a lot of really cool research to back some of that up. I personally learned a lot from this. A lot of it I'll take into my everyday life because I do live with 2 cats. So it's very helpful to know. And an added bonus was that I read a lot of this while Tanqueray was cuddled up on my lap. That was a very nice touch. And then as I'm editing this video, Thea will be cuddled on my lap. My life is all about my cats these days, which definitely makes me the target audience for this book. So big thank you to Dutton for sending this my way. And that's now the end of my little bookish celebration of our new family member. I wanted to give you a chance to meet her, and I also frankly wanted an opportunity to gush about her because we are absolutely obsessed with her. But I also want to take this opportunity to draw your attention to the rescue where we got her, Rescue and Relax here in Pittsburgh. If you're local, they have lots of cats that are adoptable. They have a cat lounge on the east end of Pittsburgh. You can go meet the cats, and you can also drop off any donations of any cat supplies there. I know they really appreciate it. And if you have it in your heart to donate, if you want to support them, like we are definitely going to be doing from here on out, I'm going to link all their information for you in the description box and in a pinned comment. So if you want to support them, they do great work. I had the opportunity to chat and meet up with the owner a number of times as we were working together to get Tanqueray well again. She is so committed to what she does. They're definitely an organization worth supporting, especially if you love cats as much as I do. Also in the description box below, I will put links to both of the books I spoke about today in case you're interested in checking those out. And at the very bottom of the exact same description box, you'll also see links to everywhere you can find me around the internets, like Goodreads, Instagram, the Story Graph, all the places I'm the most active, in case you want to keep up with what I'm reading and doing right now. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye. Say bye-bye. You want dinner, huh? Yeah, you want dinner. Okay, bye.